I mean, this is just systematic of the kind of problems that Africa on a larger scale faced. Most of the wars you have on the continent are not instigated by Africans.
Correct. And they will never be, quote unquote, solved, because here's the problem. If Africa has peace and stability uninterrupted, 10, 15 years, who is going to be able to exploit Africa? Think about that.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
And once we're in control of our resources and we're getting the fair value and we are manufacturing as well, it means Europeans' lifestyle is going to have to diminish a little bit.
Yep.
But that's, at the end of the day, that's what they don't want to do. At the end of the day, it boils down to simple greed. Europeans have become accustomed to certain. Look at France, for example. France gets its energy to power the country, to power the economy. About 75% is nuclear energy, right? And the uranium comes from Niger, right? And it gets it at pays peanuts, as Americans say. Right?
Yeah.
So do you think France, this is just one micro example, would want to see a stable, strong government
in Niger
that controls its destiny in Niger, that demands to get the fair price for its resources? No. So this is just one example. So now you multiply this by all those 54 African countries. And now you have a better understanding of why chaos, instability, conflict is part of the necessary condition for Western and increasingly now Asian interest in imperialism to project itself on Africa. It's not by accident. You think that with all the resources available in the world, if stopping conflict in Africa was an avant priority, you think it would not be accomplished?
It will be. It will be. It will be.
Look at the brutality of World War II in Europe, when an estimated 60 to 80 million people perished as a result of that war. Did that not stop at some point?
They did, and came up with rules of engagement.
The economies completely of Europe? Where are those buildings now destroyed with the bombings and the shellings? Does Europe even manifest that it has lost to that little war? So why is it only that in Africa we can't resolve these issues? Think about that. It is essential for Africa to remain weak, divided, in conflict. Not totally at war in every location, because then it becomes difficult to extract resources too, you see? So it's managed. It's
organized chaos.
Organized chaos. If every part of the African continent was like Eastern Congo, then it would become a problem. You see?
Well, as long as we can tiptoe around the problem spots.
Exactly. Now think about it. You know?
Yes.
So for anybody who's deluded and think there's some mystery, I read all these academic papers, crises in Africa, the challenges of, as if there's a mystery. They have these high-level academic conferences. Yeah, they call it what? White paper, blue paper.
Yeah. Think tanks. I think tank has just released a report.
Think about it. There are no need for those papers unless the paper is saying these conflicts are by design and they will always manifest so long as the industrialized countries profit from Africa's conflicts and Africa's resources. Africa is the way where China was before the Chinese Revolution, you see? Where as late as in the era of World War I, even the earlier stages of World War II, where you had European, American, Western soldiers could still be deployed on Chinese soil. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that happening today in 2024? Of course not. But at that time, China was chaotic. Of course, it has a great history of civilization, just like Africa does. Right?
Yes.
Great empires, in China. But China was very divided, right? But then, after the Chinese Revolution, and one can condemn the excesses of whatever happened during the revolution, but nobody can challenge the fact that today China is a global power. You see? Because China is now united. The 1.4 or 1.5 billion people are the citizens of a united Chinese nation. You see, the People's Republic of China. Okay? The same thing with India. That is why you are seeing more and more about India now, more coverage of its economy, right? Economy is now larger than the economy of Britain. Right? Of course, it's still a long way because Britain only has a fraction of India's population, which is also about 1.5 billion. But both India and China are at a different location compared to Africa, where continent. You also have 1.5 billion people, but they're the citizens of 54 different countries. And that makes a difference. It means the governments in each of those 54 countries have different priorities, right? They cannot accomplish what Nkrumah wrote about in neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, where he's talking about the collective planning of their politics, of their military, of their economy. You can't do that. Even check Adesoji wrote about that too, right?
Black Africa, the economic basis for a federated state.
Absolutely, right? He wrote about that. He says, we have the cart before the horse. He says, so long as we have all these governments, we cannot make a collective executive decision. We can talk about industrialization until kingdom come. Nothing will change. The politics is very important.
Speaking of politics,
because after China changes politics, that's it. Then its economy started changing to where it is today. And that happened after the Chinese Revolution.